So I'm Lucas Carlson. I've been a programmer for about 20 years. And before I started AppFog, which was platform as a service company. It started out as PHP Fog when I personally wrote that technology myself. And I saw Cloud Foundry come around. I said, wow, that's cool. And that was pretty much at the beginning of where Cloud Foundry was. And I started thinking, I might just want to replace my code with their code and build on top of that. So I did that and signed up about 150,000 developers for our platform as a service. And 3 months ago, CenturyLink acquired us. So we're very happy. And it was really interesting being acquired by a company that wasn't just doing platform as a service. In fact, they weren't really in the platform as a service space at all. And so I came in, and we'd been doing platform as a service. We'd been developers, thinking about developers for a long time. But one thing I hadn't been thinking about is infrastructure as a service. And that's something that, yeah, I'm not doing the slides on purpose. You guys have seen enough slides. What is infrastructure as a service to a developer anymore? Infrastructure as a service made tons of sense 6 years ago. 10 years ago, it was just an amazing, mind-blowing thing. But what does it mean to us? You know, we're developers in this room. What does infrastructure mean in the world of platform as a service? Because I'm curious, how many of you guys use Amazon Web Services? Good. And how many use like vSphere, VMware technologies? Okay, so it's kind of half and half. So we have both, right? And whenever any of us go in and we look at what infrastructure as a service is, to a developer, you know, we can get our job done real quick. I'm also curious about one more question. How many of you have deployed to either Amazon or vSphere and done like, you know, a lot of servers, like hundreds of servers, 1,000+ servers? Okay, it's not as many people, but let me tell you, we've done that. We did it because we had to deploy applications for 150,000 developers. And it doesn't really look, it doesn't make sense anymore. When your infrastructure as a service account has 1,000 servers in it, what do? How do you figure out what application is talking to which database? You know, all your VMs are in one list, and all your databases are in a different list. And what's talking to what firewalls to what? It's all weird because as a developer, we think of applications. And we think about what does an application do and what does it need and what are the components? How does the object storage and the buckets talk to the databases and how do they all interact? How do you back up stuff? These are all the questions that a developer cares about, but it's not really what infrastructure as a service is set up to do. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is what can we think about in terms of applications? One of the biggest things that I think platform as a service and Cloud Foundry has done for us as developers is let us think about applications as a first-class citizen. And if we think about what does an application mean in the context of Cloud Foundry, it's actually pretty specific. It's great. It's easy because we can kind of get right to the core of the application needs right from the start, but it's very specific. It's a managed Linux container, right? It's like a runtime. You can do your build pack, and you have some control there, but it's a managed container. So that makes sense. But as we grew, and we've seen a lot of use cases in AppFog, we've gone behind firewalls. We've installed AppFog on-premise with customers. We've dealt with a lot of enterprise use cases. And people love it. It makes sense. But then we get questions like, well, what do we do when we need to edit every single configuration file? Or what do we do when we need to start adding virtual machines or object storage? Well, you know, OK, well, you log into that control panel. Or you go into this control panel. You go to all these different places just to, like, your app is one thing, but it's becoming a distributed thing. And that didn't make sense to me. applications, I feel like, have been elevated, but they've also been constrained. And infrastructure as a service hasn't really been helping. And as we became part of a company that does infrastructure as a service, I started thinking, what could infrastructure as a service look like learning the lessons from platform as a service? Learning the lessons that applications matter, that applications can be at the center of something. And I asked some questions like, what happens if you could have managed runtime containers sitting right next to unmanaged ones? What if you could have virtual machines in the same context of an app be right next, managed virtual machines that you can do anything you want with, configure and tune exactly the way you want, and that's part of your app. You're not logging into one place to do virtual machines and a different place to CF push. It's all in the context of your application. What if your object storage in your database was more complicated than a simple service? And isn't a database part of your application? What if an infrastructure as a service was something larger and learned from the lessons of platform as a service? What if Cloud Foundry could teach Amazon Web Services and VMware a lesson and could be reimagined? And if any of you guys are thinking that that's interesting, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to work on this together. It's called Control-C. And we've got some progress. We've got a great company that is doing awesome things with Cloud Foundry. CenturyLink is now is on the advisory board for Cloud Foundry. We're committed. AppFog's awesome, continuing. We're doing fantastic stuff with Platform as a Service, with AppFog. But if anything that I just said makes sense to you, come find me, find CenturyLink, find AppFog. Love to talk. Thank you so much.